So I'll just get started. Springboard PR Marketing is well, we started off very much in the PR space and have moved more and more into content in the last few years, as it's so paramount in all communications. We have worked with blue chip clients across Ireland, both Indigenous and multinational. And today I'm just hoping to give you some insight in how we approach it. And hopefully you'll find it useful. And as I said, please do ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. So connecting through content, the key to success here is obviously to differentiate yourself from the majority, but also staying authentic. It's really important that, and now more so than ever, that we're authentic in what we say and do, because you know, with the advent of fake news and everything else, people are much more sensitive to anything they feel is inauthentic, and that goes across whether it's within your organization, externally, whoever you're speaking to. You have to be your authentic self, and it has to be true to your brand. So, you know, saying things because everyone else is saying it, or doing things because everyone else is doing it, if it doesn't fit with your brand, I would suggest that's not a good idea, and it will actually damage your brand rather than elevate it. So this morning I'm going to cover content development, content framework, and content implementation. Obviously, in the time we have here, it's not going to be exhaustive, but it will give you an overview of how we suggest you approach it. So as you all know, marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, it's about the stories you tell. So this is not going to be news to anyone. We all are bombarded day in, day out, being sold to when we're not even aware we're being sold to. All platforms now share insights, how-to guides, top tips, etc. Just having an e-commerce platform that sells product is no longer the way forward, and hasn't been for a number of years. But I suppose now more than ever, we have, you know, key challenges facing businesses, facing us as businesses, and facing our audiences, be it consumer or business to business. There's a huge reliance on digital. Everyone is now at home, or the majority are at home. We're reading, we're listening, we're consuming lots and lots of content. We're hungry for content, and I would argue hungry for content that isn't just around COVID. So there is an opportunity there, but it does mean that, you know, there is a lot more noise online. If you take LinkedIn as an example, it's quadrupled in the last few months. You know, a few months ago, I would have been saying to people, get on LinkedIn, interact on LinkedIn. No one is doing it properly. Everyone has woken up to that now. So whilst there's great opportunity, there's also a great challenge in the fact that everyone's now very active online. Uncertainty, it is challenging. You know, in our industry, we find that we have one plan one day, and the next day we have to upend the plan completely. So there is a need for agility, but what we have to bear in mind that our audiences are also feeling that uncertainty, and how can we become a source of truth for whatever our information is that we're comfortable to share, that we're the source of truth. And it goes back to my original point of it's really important that people trust what you're saying and that it's authentic. Remote team and customers, everyone's working from home. We're all sitting in front of our computers all day long, or majority of us are, depending on who your target audience is, of course. But if you're not on a computer, you're on your mobile phone, everyone's consuming information. But it's how to cut through and how to contact the people you need to get to, because traditional platforms aren't available to us right now. So it's just being very aware of those challenges and being very aware of your target audience, which I'll go on to in a minute. It's fast evolving. That comes back to the uncertainty. You know, it's changing daily. Some industries obviously more than others, but there's impact across all industry, all facets of life. And a crowded media landscape. I mean, you know, traditional media is obviously obsessed with all things COVID at the moment, and it can be very challenging to get other stories out there. And you do find that some companies are trying to shoehorn their story into a COVID dialogue. It doesn't always work, and it's very obvious when it's not working. So we would ask, you know, just make sure that you don't jump on the bandwagon, and that whatever you say is authentic. So when you're looking at your target audience, I would say before you start, ask yourself, who are they? Where are they active? Obviously, that's really important. Don't be going on TikTok if they're all on LinkedIn. when are they online? So understand your buyer persona, understand your client, your customer. When are they online? When are they most active? There's loads of stats and information out there that you can pull on to pull together that information. Why are they interested? Why would they be interested in your product? What is affecting them? And I'll come to that again in a minute. What do they want from you? And that all feeds into what are their pains? What are their challenges? What are their interests? Because unless you identify that, it's just a monologue, not a dialogue, and they're not going to engage with you moving forward. So what we've done is pulled together this Venn diagram to explain what I mean when I say what are the pain points. So if you look at what your audience is interested in, and I'll explain in a second how you identify that, what the media are talking about. So it is key that you do, you know, unfortunately, as hard as it is sometimes now to read the media, that you do still read, listen, digest what's going on out there. What are people talking about? So you're not coming across as tone deaf on whatever you're saying. And what's relevant to your business, obviously, is vitally important. There's no point in talking about something that might get massive engagement rates, but that actually makes no difference to your business. So in relation to what your business is, what are the pain points or the interests of your audience, I would ask you to look in, you know, yes, you can go online and always listen. You'll be sick to death of me saying that at the end. You should be listening, not just from a traditional media point of view, not just from, you know, anecdotally what you hear from people around you, but also listening online. Listen, follow, set up Google alerts, follow certain hashtags, know exactly what's being said, and then you can jump on conversations. But even from an organization, or if you're an individual working on your own, what are the common questions you asked? What are your clients always saying to you? What are your customers always saying to you? What frustrates you? We all have those things. We're like, God, how do they not know that yet? And if you're constantly, it could be one, could be two, could be 5 questions. They're the kind of things you should be building your content around. They're the things that will be beneficial to your business, and that will, as long as they're in the context of being relevant to the media you're targeting as well, or the media outlets that your audience would be targeted on, and also that they're relevant to your business and relevant to the audience. That's the perfect sweet spot. What do you wish your customers understood? That's another one, because we all waste lots of time explaining the same thing over and over again. What would make their lives easier? You know, is it how to navigate certain aspects of your business, etc. You know, really understand that, and I'll come to it in a second, how you get to look into that a bit further. Keywords, what key terms are people searching under? And I'll cover this off in a kind of example I have in a minute, but what I would say is there's loads of free platforms, especially, you know, Google Ads itself. You don't even have to run a campaign. You can just go in there, log in, set up an account, and you can search for keywords on anything you're looking for. So how do you identify what they're interested in? Going back, obviously, you know, being aware of who your buyer persona is really important, who your target audience is. HubSpot have a free platform that allows you, or a free tool that allows you build out buyer personas. Do that, because it, even though it might seem a bit basic, it does actually allow you to see who you're speaking to. You know, what are their interests? You know, is it someone in their 20s living in an urban area who, you know, has a professional job, or is it not? So understand it, because that'll lend you to understand how you should be communicating with them online, what you should be producing for them. And then you can look as well, what I'd always say to people, because we're obviously all, you know, strapped for time, no matter if you're a large organization or a small organization. So I would suggest that you look at your existing content. You have, you know, you'll have written things, you'll have pulled together presentations, whatever the case may be. Pull it together and see, is it still relevant? Can you just tweak it? Because no one should be producing endless amounts of content. No one has time to do that anyway. But if you are, it's going to just be, you know, firing it against a wall and hope it hits your target. What I would say is look at your content, see is it still relevant, see if you can tweak it, because ultimately what you're aiming to achieve is evergreen content that never dies. Yes, it needs to be tweaked. Yes, it needs to be brought up to date, but it never actually dies. Have you run polls? Everyone likes a good poll. Ask a couple of questions. You can run them across any social platform. And people love to be, crowdsourced. Ask them a question on whatever you like and start engaging with your community, asking them their opinion. That's a really good way to get insight to what they're interested in. Ask open-ended questions as well. If you don't want to run a poll, just ask a question, see what kind of feedback you get. And once again, listening is key. I see it time and time again, organizations going online, building out their content calendar, oblivious to what's out there, and not listening to what their peers are saying, what their other stakeholders are saying, what the media is saying, and just going out with their own message because that's part of what their business needs to achieve. But it's not going to get you the engagement levels. And it can be very disappointing, obviously, when you've spent a lot of time putting content together. But if it's tone deaf, if it's not joining a conversation, it's not going to get you the return you're hoping for. So going back on the keywords and key terms that people search under. Now, obviously, from an SEO point of view, you have to have a well-built website. You have to maintain that website. All that I'm taking as a given, that you have your metadata and all of that up to date. I'm talking specifically now around content. So if we take carpets, very boring, mundane subject, but I don't know what businesses you're in, so I'm just taking a subject that we can all relate to. I'm sure at some point we'll all potentially buy carpet or some sort of flooring. And when you buy your carpet, you might have a which and a what. These are the usual terms that people. Which carpet should I buy? What is the best carpet for a bedroom, etc. So try and list them out as much as you can. Use your Google Ads to help you produce this. And out of this, then you'll very, very clearly see content you can pull together easily that hits that sweet spot you've been looking for. So if you take a blog on the top 10 ways to remove carpet stains, this is something that, is a blog that can be written quite easily if you're a carpet business, or if you're a carpet cleaning business. But it's something that you could reuse again and again. So if you take this blog and you pushed it out on the, in the normal course of events, but even if you pushed it out, say, around key seasonal times like Christmas, red wine at Christmas, or communion time when people might be having in normal times a party in their house. This is a time when you will have the spillage and the stain. And wouldn't it be great if you were a company that sold carpets, but you were also giving this information? And there might be an opportunity for brand collaboration with a carpet cleaning company. So you're the source of all information. I know it's carpets. I know it's, not a very exciting subject, but it just shows you that everything can be utilized in this way and that you're giving information that's useful to your target audience, the carpet buying public. And if we take that top 10 carpet stains tips, and if we put it out to all your across content, and this is where the evergreen idea comes in. You don't have to do, and I wouldn't suggest you do this all in one go, but this could be a sustained campaign over a number of weeks or months, and it could be reignited around certain times of the year. So you write the blog, you might do your 10 Instagram stories, you might do a slideshow, you might do stills of this process of taking out the stain. You might do a guest post on your carpet cleaning website. You might do an infographic of different stages of carpet cleaning. You do a paid targeted ad. You could do social video. Social video could be an animation, or someone actually, you could get an influencer to use the product or use your suggestions to clean their carpet and show it working, and them thanking you publicly for using the carpet cleaner. 10 tweets of the 10 top tips, 10 Instagram posts of the 10 top tips. So you can see how that one blog could be used again and again. And I would suggest it's something that, earned media, as in online media or traditional media, might be interested in taking this blog post off you, especially if it's at a key time of year, like after party season. Not now, obviously, at the moment. My carpet analogy doesn't really work in the current circumstances, but we still could spill red wine when we're at home on our own. So just to circle back on the content creation process, listen. It's so important, and it's just a trap people always fall into. Even though they'll have great content calendars, they don't listen and they just jump out with what they've pre-prepared and push it out there. Talk to your team if you have a team. Centralize information if you know, because a lot of larger companies will have information in silos and they won't share it across the organization, and they won't understand, you know, for example, marketing aren't on the front line with customers, so they may not see all the questions that are, or hear all the questions that are being asked. Pull together talking points around the topic. So if we take our carpet analogy, there's a number of different ways you could pull together information on carpets and become the trusted source on carpets, not just cleaning, but, you know, installing, maintaining the best carpets for different rooms, the new kind of carpet that's out there, the best carpet for health issues such as asthma, etc., etc. And then Google will see you as a trusted source, an expert on a specific area, and will rank you higher on search terms in relation to carpets. So clusters of topics are really important. You'll see it time and time again when you go online. People will you know, break out blogs that could really be in one blog, to be honest. So it's sometimes done in that way from an SEO point of view, for Google to see you as a trusted source, an expert, and then to push you up in the rankings under those search terms. Identify keywords, we've covered that. Best content stream, that goes without saying, I'll cover that in a minute. Create the piece of content, working with the team members and external suppliers as relevant. So working with your own team, but also looking at people, you know, this is where brand collaboration could come in. Looking at other organizations you could collaborate and make agreement. Well, look, I'll give you a guest blog on my site. Will you give me a guest blog on yours? And let's share it across platforms. Promote, and also look to reuse, reignite at relevant times in the year. So I suppose moving on now to the framework. In Springboard, we use a framework that we've called Spring Cubed. And no matter what your campaign is, no matter how small it is, it might only be, you know, a quick push on something. Do look across all areas of media: owned, which is your website, etc., earned and paid. So just to give you, there's a lot of words here, I get that, but this is available on our website and there's a video to go with it at springboardpr.ie. So, but just to give you a whistle-stop tour of it, the owned property, that's, you know, that's something that I personally put an awful lot of weight in. And obviously everyone does now, because how many times do you read information about a brand on a brand's website? And sometimes you don't even realize you're being sold to while you're reading that information. And that is really good content. That's when you know, when you don't realize that you're actually on their website reading their content, or on one of their platforms reading their content. So you can do all the earned media you want, and you can get phenomenal coverage beyond your own platforms. But if people land in your platforms and they don't ring true as to what you've said in earned media, it's a moot point. You've lost that lead. That's not going to come to anything, or you know, you won't be seen as authentic. So get the owned right first. It's really, really important. And that doesn't mean you have to have loads of owned platforms. You might just have a website and one social media platform. If you get those both right, that's a really good move in the right direction. And then you push traffic to those platforms. Earned media is obviously editorial, peer endorsements, awards, social media shares. And, you know, if you're getting it right on the development of your content, if you're hitting pain points and interests, that'll go beyond your owned platforms. You'll be able to target trade media or specific organizations you're members of with this content, because it'll be valuable beyond your organization. So I'd always keep that in mind. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to get the front page of the Irish Times, but it will get you coverage in an area that means something to your target audience. So that's where you need to understand where they are and what they're reading and what they're doing. Paid promotion is when you're doing well on these other parts. I would say you would consider this as the latter stage of your campaign. So you've pushed out your own content, maybe it's a webinar or whatever, you've pushed out your earned media around that webinar, and then you're saying, okay, I have my deck after the webinar, I'm going to put some paid promotion behind that, share it publicly and let people download, so I go beyond whoever was at the webinar. So that is all three elements combined, obviously, is the ideal scenario, but definitely start with the owned. I would always say to you, don't push stuff out in paid unless you've got some engagement organically, because you will get clicks potentially, but they won't be from whom you want. There's no point in putting paid promotion and having loads of clicks on it, not from your target audience, that won't actually create a return on investment for you. So if your audience is engaging, put money behind it, but make sure they are engaging first. Don't go straight to paid. So just going further into implementation, a challenge for everyone can be, you know, what platform should we be on? How many should we be on? It does depend on the size and scale of your organization. You know, obviously from an employer branding point of view, it can be very important to be on Instagram and Facebook. But if you're a B2B organization, you really have no business there and should really be looking to LinkedIn and potentially Twitter. But make sure, you know, who are you speaking to? Know your audience, know where they are. That goes back to your original research when you're developing your content. And make sure you're not speaking to an empty room, because although it might be full of people, it's not full of the people you want to speak to. So when you're implementing, make sure you have your content calendar. This is just an example of how we'd set it up. The pillars of conversation are that sweet spot area, you know, and they obviously have to tie into your brand. Slightly different to messaging. They're very much specifically around digital platforms. But always make sure that if you're talking about something, engaging on something, that it's relevant to your organization. I've had many instances where clients have said, oh, we got phenomenal engagement rates on X, but X had nothing to do with their organization. They were just jumping on a bandwagon of a topic that was live, but not actually, it wasn't actually making a difference to their business objectives. So this is just very handy to do. Don't be a slave to it. Realize, you know, you can do it in advance, but you will have to adjust as and when needed. You know, obviously for a number of businesses, when we went to level 5, they had to adjust their content calendar. So this is a great tool, but it's not a hard and fast tool, because if you make it hard and fast, you're going to be tone deaf. Unfortunately, you're not going to join in on conversations. So the key to all content when you're implementing it, always listen. I know that's something I harp on about a lot. Decide on themes and topics, like what you want to achieve or what theme feeds into that and topic. Create the content, promote the content. I use the word promote there, but that's across all parts of the framework. Measure and evaluate. I can't tell you how important that is. That is the beauty of digital. You can run a campaign and midway through the campaign, realize this isn't working and tweak it. But you can only do that if you're measuring it. So please do make sure you're aware of your Google Analytics. Make sure you're aware of your social platform analytics. They are made for people who aren't data analysts. So you can read them. They are understandable. There's loads of YouTube videos and everything else, even if you do need some help on Google Analytics. So please do be aware of what action it's creating from your audience. Repurpose and you go again. So this is really important. I hate for people to think that they have to constantly reuse content, or sorry, create new content. That really shouldn't be what you're looking to do. You should be looking to repurpose as much as possible. If you spend the time doing strong content up front, you can repurpose it. And then I just wanted to touch on content marketing in relation to lead generation. This is obviously a very nuanced area. You know, it's really important that your owned platforms facilitate this. It's about, you know, capturing data. There's a whole remarketing piece around it. But just on a, you know, a basic level, the idea we all have is to initially attract people. Now, if you don't have a call to action when you attract those people, you lose them. We've had instances where clients have had 200% increases in one morning on their Google Analytics, but yet all those people just left the site again because their data wasn't being captured, and they weren't being remarketed to in any way. So make sure you attract through blogging, SEO, website, social publishing. Convert. This is about actually capturing information, wall content, calls to action, landing pages. Then close. This is where, you know, your marketing qualified lead is. If you have a sales team, hand it to them, or if you're the sales team, hand it to yourself. And you customer relationship management. So it's about understanding your customer even more now. Marketing automation. So emails going out to them at certain points along the pipeline that you then close it. But there's always opportunity with a client to delight them further, and then A, become ambassadors for your brand, or B, maybe upsell other aspects of what you're trying to sell to them. Smart calls to action. Smart calls to action are calls to actions that are geo-targeted, that are targeted based on actions that the customer has made. So they've bought certain products, they've done certain things. You then give them calls to action, for example, like log on today and get 10% off a pair of shoes that they may have bought a similar pair of shoes from. You know, you see this all the time with the fashion houses online and how they target you. They're watching what your behavior is, and then to delight you, they're making smart call to action, smart texting, for example, and social monitoring. So user generated content. I get a pair of shoes from X, I post it online that I love my shoes. Make sure you see that and reshare it. That's really, really important, because it shows that you're, you know, a trusted provider of shoes in this instance. So this is we have a blog post on our website that goes into more detail on this, but it's something that you should definitely be thinking about if you're looking and if you're using your website for lead generation. You're obviously using it for brand awareness and brand development as well, which is really important. But if you're looking to use it as capturing leads for your business, you have to make sure that you have this looped approach to it. So to summarize, I suppose, keep it authentic, integrate across all platforms. So if you're going to do a campaign, make sure the campaign runs across all relevant platforms at the same time. You have the landing page ready to go, you're pushing it out on social, etc. Listen, I've gone on about that enough. Topic clusters, that's the clusters of information around one topic. Brand collaboration, especially with smaller organizations, but obviously with larger ones too, that can be incredibly valuable. Make it personal. People love a personal, especially when you're at the delight phase of your content. If you could personalize it to the person, Susie, I saw you bought X, or Susie, I see you're interested in Y. We thought you might also be interested in this. That's really, really valuable. And the strength of a micro-influencer, obviously influencers are incredibly powerful, especially now when we're all online all of the time. But, you know, we don't all have budgets for large scale influencers. So micro influencers, anyone with 500 followers can make a difference to your business, because you can target a lot of micro influencers in one go. Maybe you have excess product, maybe you have something you can offer for free, and you target across through an organization you're a member with, or if you're part of iconic offices, etc. You use that as an opportunity to ask people in that space to push out your content online by, you know, obviously you're gifting them something, or they're just in the delight phase and you ask them to share it. But micro influencers and people with less followers also have a strong voice if they are peers to your target audience. So I hope that makes sense. You can find out more information on our website, springboardpr.ie. We've got plenty of ebooks on there on different topics: how to build out a webinar, how to internal comms, communications in the current situation. So please feel free to browse, and we've loads of blog content as well on our insights section. And if you've any questions, that's my Twitter handle, or and that's the Springboard Twitter handle. So thank you.